Honestly.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the school board meeting for Benicia Unified School District. It's November 5th, 2020. In compliance with Executive Order N29-20 and N35-20 issued by Governor Newsom on March 12th and 21st of 2020, respectively, this meeting is live streamed and recorded on the BUSD YouTube channel. Any community members were able to submit a comment on our link between the hours of 6 and 7 and will now be available for us at the start of the meeting. Okay, with that said, there was nothing to report out from closed session tonight at opening session. So we are ready to begin. So if I can invite everybody to please stand and join me in the pledge. Mr. Maselli, would you like to lead us, please?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance
to
the flag
of
the
United States of America,
and
to the republic
for which
for which it stands, one nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and please be seated. Okay, let's start first with calling for an approval as the agenda as written. I'd like a motion, please, if I can.
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Thank you, Mr. Maselli. And a second,
I'll
Mrs. Zedit, I see her hand going up. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Okay, Dr. Young, we are going to move to you for the highlight tonight.
Very good. I'd like to welcome our esteemed Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Mr. Padawan. And he's going to spend some time this evening highlighting to us the terrific work that he and his team at the tech department have been doing over the last several months. I think, like, all districts, we've had this giant lift from everybody being on campus to being virtual, so that ongoing and continual work. So we welcome Mr. Padawan. Good to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Thank you to the board to allow me to come here tonight virtually and present what our team did in this very hard time. So I'm going to share my screen and have a little PowerPoint. I hope you're going to see it, right? So what we accomplished during this pandemic, we found all the students with no devices, and we provided a device. We have all our students with internet access, and we have a way to give the CTE students software access from home and no more only from the labs at school. On the agenda tonight, I want to cover what we did to prepare for COVID-19, the survey that we sent out during last year, in March, and then in the summer. I'll give you a point on the Chromebooks, where we are, what we did, teachers' technology, and how we support students and parents, and then the VDI servers. So when we started, it was not as easy as you see there, that just click a button on the keyboard and was distance learning. We had to pull all-nighters. We had a couple of guys in our team putting all-nighters to prepare all the Google Classroom for the teachers, and with the automatic rostering for the kids. We had to prepare all the technology needs for our students, the technology needs for our staff. We need to find out how we can help the parents at home, because it was not as easy as click the power button on the computer, and how we can distribute all those devices in a safe manner. Just to let you know, we did distribute already the freshmen one-to-one, so we can keep the one-to-one project going on Benicia High School. So during the summer, we sent out a survey for our TK through 8, and on this survey we asked if the student at home had a device, if they were sharing a device, or if they were not in need of device. So here's some numbers. We had 1,389 responses. So all those family responses respond to that survey. As you see here, there are all the schools and by grades. So the device at home, we had 652 families with no device at home. We provide every single one of them with a device. We had 636 families that were sharing a device, and we provide the majority of those. We were 120 short, and we are now providing those 120 families with devices because we just received 400 devices. And 99, of course, had device that they did not need a device from us. We currently we have 3,154 Chromebooks in the house of our students. During this survey, we also asked if they need help with their internet availability at home. 35 families told us that they needed internet. They have no internet. I want to thank the Benicia Community Action Council because they provided internet to these families. So not only students in need, but also we sent a survey for the teachers, what the teachers need to get to help our students. So they answer with laptops. They need new laptops. In fact, their laptops that they're using right now are the 7 years old HP Folios. And only 2 schools in the district have brand new laptops that we provided last year. So we did order devices for all staff, and they should be in the middle of January, and we will be deploying those devices to all staff members. They need document cameras. The average document cameras right now age is about 10 years old, and we did order more. We order monitors. They need the second monitors to have another way to see the kids and see and present their lessons. And also we wireless display adapters for when they come back, so they can share their display on the screen and on the board. Due to the pandemic and the shortage of technology, we had to wait until middle of January to receive all these devices. The tech support, we saw in the first couple of months that was very hard to support all the parents and students at home. So during the summer, we came up with a very neat idea of a web chat where parents can log into our webpage and chat with live technicians. We have that chat available from 7:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. every day, every school day. At the beginning, the chat was very busy, and I want to thank Ed Services and the librarians that help us out with supporting our staff, our community members. And for the staff, we encourage them to use a work order system because in that way, multiple technicians can access that work order system anytime and be a faster and better way to help them. Virtual desktop is enough. This is what I'm most proud of it. I want to thank Michael that is there. He worked very hard to make this impossible project a possibility for Benicia Unified School District. On those surveys, one of the complaint that we had is the students from that has CTE classes could not access to their Adobe Suite, AutoCAD, so all these very powerful device software that needs a big device to run. We went and buy a handful of servers and install a virtual desktops and virtual applications so that the students can access the Adobe Suite, AutoCAD on their Chromebook or on their personal machine also when they're home. This is a project that usually takes between 9 and 12 months to complete. And We did it in 5 or 6 weeks. Again, thank you to my team that did a fantastic job. So in summary, what we have done, every session has a Google Classroom with automatic roster. We are expecting 1,100 more Chromebooks for the students so we can go one-to-one for the entire district. We have 250 laptops for the staff coming in, document cameras, monitors, and hotspot from T-Mobile. We apply for 133 free hotspot for our students. We create a better way to help our parents and students with the web chat, and we did this fantastic virtual desktop and application. So what we accomplished, all students at home have a device. All students can access internet, and the CTE students will very soon be able to run those software from their comfortable home. Thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you and your team for how much you guys put into this, the beginning of this whole thing that we're in right now, for all the students and teachers working from distance. So we couldn't have done this without you and your team, and I am beyond grateful. I tip my hat. Thank you so much.
I have to agree with Sherry. I think it's a job well done, and I think it's something that you and everyone in our district needs to be proud of. We are reading everywhere how there are still so many students, not just in the state of California, but all over the country, that are still disconnected and unable to access their learning. And you know, thanks to you and your team, I think Benicia can stand proud and say bravo. So thank you again.
Wow. Really well done. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
Okay, with that, it's kind of hard to follow that up. That was a pretty incredible report, but thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to our regular reports at this time. And Dr. Young, I'm back to you again, please.
Very good. Good evening, board, and everybody, and the team, and anybody out there who's tuned in to watch us this evening. Just a few comments from me. I want to, thank everybody that's teachers, classified managers, everybody that continues to do their best with the virtual learning model. So we appreciate that, and we're thinking about the kids and families and supporting ourselves as we work through this time. I keep reminding us that this is a temporary space. We will not always be here. The virus will eventually lift. Hopefully there might be a vaccine and therapeutics, etc. But just a reminder that this is a temporary space, and that we continue to work as a whole system in ways that is supportive as we continue to move forward together. A reminder that the team and I, with the union's bargaining team, have been working very hard for the November 19th presentation. At the last board meeting, the board gave us the directive to put together an in-person learning plan that if we're able to implement it after the holidays, if the data on that 4-tiered system allows us to do so. So we've been working very diligently on that, and working closely with the teachers bargaining team. Just as a reminder that when you change, schedules, etc., you have the responsibility as a school district to work with the union to bargain the impacts and the effects. So that's a typical practice, and it's going well. And so we're working together on that plan for the 19th presentation. So we'll have that for you guys. So we're excited about that moving forward, and hopefully, if we're able to do in person after the holidays, that would be great, and we'll have a plan. So, but we'll have to wait and see how that data looks. So for tonight, we've got a great agenda for you. We've got some first readings of board policies. We have a presentation from Dr. Beatson on our work around equity. We have a presentation from Ms. Kleinschmidt, our esteemed principal at the high school, who's going to talk to us. This is an action item about high school athletics, and give you that information, and hopefully we get some direction from the board tonight. We have some exciting course outlines for you to approve, and then I believe it's Ms. Rice and Miss Rice is going to talk about, and maybe Mr. Rahal, your thoughts on a new student information system. They'll be talking about that tonight. So great agenda. Good to see everybody. And on we go to the next item.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Young.
You're
Does
welcome.
anyone have any board reports they'd like to make? Okay, well, just real quickly, I'd like to add two things. Yesterday, actually, Mrs. Zeta and I had the privilege of meeting with Dr. Young and our brand new board member who will be coming on board in December. So we got to share some of the aspects of the roles and responsibilities of being a board member and all the things we get to do and discuss and all of the ways that we could provide support to our district and to our teachers and our students, because that's really what we try really hard to do. That is our focus and our goal. So anyways, it was a great meeting and I really appreciated the time of everybody, including CC Grubbs, who came in to sit with us for about an hour late in the afternoon. So I'd like to say thank you. And I think it'll be fun for everybody to meet CC soon. The other thing was that I got to sit on that COVID meeting today, and we were discussing it before the meeting a little bit with Mr. Maselli and Dr. Holguin. They have this amazing complex formula that they use to determine our status. But anyways, at this point, Solano County is red. Our positivity rate is where it needs to be in the red category. Unfortunately, there still are some cases of COVID that have gone up again. But anyways, we're red now, so we're not having to watch and be careful of purple for next week as we were put on alert for the last time. So hopefully we stay there and continue to go down, which is what we really like to do. But their one big reminder today was the flu season is officially upon us. They've had several people already in the hospital with the flu. So if you haven't gotten a vaccine, you may want to seriously think about it. So anyways, with that said, I'm going to move on to comments from the members of the public. Members of the public may submit comments or items on the agenda and any item within the jurisdiction of the school district in the following manner for meetings during the shelter-in-place executive order. There is a Google form that can be submitted to the district between the hours of 6 and 7 p.m. the day of our meeting. The governing board allows speakers to speak at regular meetings on agendized and non-agendized matter under public comment. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker. By law, no action may be taken on any item raised during the public comment period, and matters may be referred to staff for placement on a future agenda. At this point in the evening, I have been informed that there actually are no comments for us this evening. So I am going to move our agenda forward. I'm going to go on to the consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be approved by the board in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items unless otherwise members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be pulled or staffed. So before I call for a motion, I just want to remind everybody we have 2 resolutions under the consent items. So those last 2 items on the consent will require a roll call vote. So with that said, can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, please?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr.
As written.
Maselli. Dr. Moss, an approval? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Okay, I see hands up. Thank you very much. The consent calendar motion is approved. Now we'll go to 11.3 on the consent calendar, which is a consideration and approval of resolution 20-21-07 on a declaration of obsolete e-waste items. Do we need an explanation on that, or can I call for, no? Okay, you're all saying, okay. So roll call, please, Mrs. Martinez. Yes.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Maselli?
Yes.
Trustee?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. The last one is 11.4, consideration and approval of resolution number 20-21-08, and it's obsolete property. Again, do we need anybody to clarify that? Okay, then I'm going to call for a roll call, Ms. Martinez. Yes.
Trustee Moss? Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Yes. Trustee Maselli?
Yes.
And Trustee Sager?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With that said, I'm going to go on to number 12, which is our discussion items. It's information and a discussion about BUSD's equity journey. And Dr. Beatson, I believe, is going to take us on this journey.
Yes, I am. Thank you so very much. Good evening, board and community members and cabinet members that are here tonight. I am excited to share with you, let's see here. Hold on one second. I'm excited to share with you tonight the work that we have done as a district and will continue to do around equity. And I'm going to take you on a little journey of where we started and the work that we've done. And I can't, oops, nope. Here we go from the beginning. Okay, can you all see that? Excellent. What I want to share with you is how did we embark on this work and why? What called us to do this work? How the work we've done so far, what it's looking like today in the time that we are in distance learning, and then our ongoing commitment and future plans to continue this, because we do know it's a journey. And I chose this title specifically because I don't feel like when a district or an organization engages in equity work that it's ever done. It's a constant journey because there are many, many things that we need to learn and continue to reflect on and improve. So how did we know that it was even something we needed to pay attention to? Well, there were many, many reasons. First and foremost, we got some feedback from our stakeholders, and that was both formal feedback through surveys and informal feedback through incidents that happened, through conversations we've had with students, conversations we've had with parents. They gave us feedback that we needed to stop and take a deeper look to make sure that we were meeting the needs of all of our students. We also had a lot of data that we continued to look at to see how are we doing? Are we providing equitable experiences for all students? And so I've listed here several pieces of data that I'll take you through tonight. Now, tonight's presentation focuses primarily on the equity around students who are African American, and I chose that particularly because a couple of years ago, if you remember, with our data, with our statewide data, our suspension rates, our chronic absenteeism, and our statewide performance on the state test, that was one of the groups of students that we were having, they used to call it program improvement, and then they changed it to differentiated assistance. And so that was a particular area of focus. Now, that said, that's the data that I'm sharing with you this evening, but we also continue to look at all students who are struggling in any of these areas. And so we have other student groups that we are also paying close attention to. So as I said, some of the initial information that we got was feedback. We held some student forums a while ago at the middle school and at the high school where we just talked with students. Ms. Kleinschmidt actually helped us. We passed out random passes at lunchtime and said, hey, come tell us how things are going. And some of the feedback was so profound from our students. It was things they would tell us was get to know us by our names, know who we are. Another big one that came up, and this came up several times, was trust us when we're in groups. So if you see groups of students, and this actually came from our students who are African American, when you see groups of us clustered together, don't automatically think that we're up to no good. So don't misunderstand us and don't single us out. And so that was really powerful data and feedback from our students that made us stop and say, we need to take a close look at our practice. Additionally, we have data from our parent groups, and they said some of the very same things. Get to know our students for who they really are. Those were specific quotes from some of our African American parents. They also said, partner with us, call us to the table, reach out. We want to do this journey with you. And another one that was really profound was make sure our kids are held to the same standards. They're smart, hold them to high expectations, expect to see them in AP classes. And then simultaneously, make sure that the standards, especially standards of behavior, are equitable across the board and don't just pick out our students as doing things wrong. And then we talked with staff, and we get this feedback again in survey data, in conversations that we've had as we look at creating the LCAP and the LCP. These are all the different places we can have these conversations. A lot of teachers have told us that they're worried about their students of color and their performance and their English learners, and how are we closing the gap? How do we know if they're really learning what they need to learn? They also told us that this work needs to be done district-wide, and it's a district-wide commitment. We've started in pockets, and I'll share that with you in a minute when we talk about the journey and how we got here. But now it's time to take this work district-wide from all levels. And people are asking for more strategies, and so more professional development. So some of the hard data, and I won't spend too long on this, but our AP data, we looked at what were the percentages of African-American students that took AP classes. And the good news in this is we have an increase. So back in 2014, 17% of African-American students took an AP class, and this year we have 29% of students. And so that's good. And that also shows that this has been a focus for us for a while. But you can still see there is a gap because 36.5% of our students at Benicia High School take an AP class. That will be out of all. So you're always looking at the ratio of a particular student group to the total to see if we have a disproportionate gap. Chronic absenteeism, again, that was an area of focus a couple of years ago when we had 11.4% of our African-American students chronically absent. And remember, that is 10 or more days of the days we're in school. We did some major focus on that. We did a lot of outreach. We brought that percentage down to 6.9%, and it's still higher than the overall. And overall, for our school, for our district, I'm sorry, a couple of years ago, is still higher than we'd like to see. Another area that we looked at was our curriculum. Is our curriculum representing the students who are sitting in the seats using it? And so we, under the direction of Ms. Rice, put together a really comprehensive program when we're looking at adopting new curriculum, and equity and representation is one of the things that we look at, and inclusion when we do curriculum adoption and curriculum review. And so we were able to purchase, thanks to you, your approval, new English language arts curriculum at our secondary schools this year that has a lot of more diverse units in it. We also, a couple of years ago, started an ethnic and identity studies course at the high school, and it has grown to 2 sections. And then last year, I think it was last year, we switched AP European History, which is the first AP class that students take as 10th graders at Benicia High School, to AP World History to give a broader perspective. Again, that was feedback from some of our parents as well. Suspension rate, this is again a statewide indicator. You can see by the data on the top, 8.6%, 5.7%, 6.5%. Our students who are African American we're getting suspended at a higher rate than our overall suspension rate, which is 3.2%. CASP data, again, there is while students have performed better, marginally better over the last several years, there's still a big gap between how our African American students perform compared to our BUSD students as a whole. And then this middle column is around special education. It's always an area we're paying attention to. We don't have a lot of students who are African American in special education, so those are the numbers there. And then the 450, things in the way here, at the 458 students are how many students in special education as a whole. And so we have to pay careful attention. One year we were almost in disproportionality because of that, but we have a small number and we're paying attention to that. We don't want to see that increase. And then we give the REACH data. And if you remember the REACH data, we give to all secondary students every year, and it focuses on relationships, effort, achievement, aspirations, cognition, and heart. And we looked at specific questions that had some disparity between how students who are African American responded compared to students as a whole. And so perceived discrimination, we had about 44% of African American students said yes, they perceive that. Expanding possibilities, 62%, so was not far off from how everyone else did, so that was good, or better, I should say. And then sense of belonging, and that's something we've talked a lot about at the BUSD, is making sure that all students have a sense of belonging. Okay. So what have we done? So over the years, I'd say about 5 years ago, our management team, under the direction of Dr. Young, we hired a consultant to come in and work with our management team on implicit bias training. And so we had several sessions with this consultant to really start to do some self-reflection on how we lead as an organization. Additionally, several years ago, informally, there was a group, they named themselves BAM, the Benicia African Americans Moms Group, and they started meeting with Dr. Young on an informal basis for a couple of years. We purchased the Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain book by Zaretta Hammond. We purchased it for our admin team. We also had any teacher that wanted to do book clubs with us, and so we had several of those that ran for a couple of years. And this is how we started this work, was in small pockets throughout the district. That African American Moms Group expanded into an African American Parent Group. It's grown bigger, and one of our goals is to formalize it. Just like we have a district English Language Arts Committee, we would like to have an African American Parent Committee as well in the district to show our commitment to this ongoing equity work. Over the last several years, every time we have a professional development day, we have choice sessions around culturally responsive practices. We did a 6-month, we called it the Inclusive Practices Academy, and it focused on inclusive practices and equity and universal design for learning. And that was where managers and staff, both classified and certificated staff, learned alongside each other for 6 months and took a class together that was facilitated by 2 outside presenters. That was very well received. From that, we had a smaller group attend a series of equity sessions put on by EPIC Equity Group, which is a very well-known, high-quality organization, and that was through our county office. The rave reviews came back. That was just last year, and we started some of them in person, and they had to finish online because of COVID. But the rave reviews came back from the work that that organization put out, that we purchased modules from them, and that is the work that all staff did over this summer during their professional development day. So those were some of the big rocks. We've done other things, but some of the big things that we've done over the last few years. And then I reached out to principals to say, based on all of that, what are some of the things that you're continuing to do at the site level? And so this was the feedback I got. Some principals said, we have teachers who are teaching teachers. And so they take portions of their staff meeting, they provide teacher expert time, and that teacher shares information that has to do with equity, with trauma-informed care, with taking care of kids at their staff meetings. They all work on closing the gaps in their school goals for their single plans for student achievement. They are engaged in major data studies and always looking at closing that gap as part of that. They're continuing to do book clubs for teachers who want to. Sometimes it's during staff meeting or school time, and sometimes it's outside. We had one school that engaged in a whole book study. I think almost their whole staff did it over the summer. They're providing more trainings and using that EPIC work during their staff meetings, and they're providing more information in their newsletters. And that's just some of the ways that we're trying to keep this work alive and ongoing throughout this journey. And so this piece here is our commitment, or what we're hoping is our commitment, and what we're hoping to hear from you, governing board, that you agree that these are some really robust goals. These were developed in conjunction with the African American Parent Group, and we're using this as a way to show our commitment to this ongoing work. So first was engage parents as partners, and we're working hard to do that. Another was to ensure that our curriculum is relevant, inclusive, and engaging. And so making sure that every time we're purchasing something, we're looking at it through an equity lens. The third goal is to get to know and see students for who they really are. And so this is continuing with how do you build relationships with students, looking at implicit bias training, equity training. Another that the parents, and we agree, and actually our state superintendent of public instruction has as a goal as well, is to increase African American staff. And we want to do that here in BUSD too. And so we've talked with Dr. Gill about how can we, when we do get to hire, how can we try to make a conscious effort to reach out and recruit staff of color through universities and colleges. And then another one that we added was building and enhancing our partnership with the Benicia Police Department. And we know that the Benicia Police Department is committed to this work as well. And we actually worked with them to repurpose some of the funding that would have gone to pay for some of their position to using it for equity work. And as soon as we, this is a continued goal that we will continue to work with them on and look at ways that we can continue to partner in our study of this work together. And I just wanted to end with this, this quote that I found pretty powerful. And that's at the core of equity, understanding who your kids are and how to meet their needs. You're still focused on the outcomes, but the path to get there may not be the same for each one. And so I think that's the work that we are looking at is equitable isn't equal, and how do we get to know who our kids are and what they need and how to get them there. And so, any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
I do want to say thank you for the work that you've been doing, because I'm well aware that you guys have been working, for a few years now, towards making sure that all students have access and all students are treated with fairness and with dignity and respect. I do want to, I'm curious to know about if you've had any other conversations in building partnerships with other groups throughout the community or throughout Solano County that would kind of help support the efforts in this work.
Beyond, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
No, I was saying like any organizations that you've worked with or you're planning to maybe.
So with Solano County Office of Education, of course, but then I just had a conversation and his name was Gene Carter from KOL. Let me look, hold on. I have my notebook right here. Oh, I have the wrong notebook here. And his is KOL Education. I'll have to get you the exact name. It's a fraternity organization, and they put on workshops. It's sort of like the Willie Atkins program, it sounds like, that they have in Vallejo, where they can get mentors, they give scholarships. There's these Saturday workshops where they teach kids how to interview, how to do college applications, really great stuff. And so we got his flyers. I shared them with Dr. Young. We sent them out to our principals. We'll continue to send them out to families as another possibility, a way to do outreach to families. So those are the two that we've done so far. We work not specifically on this, but with Andre Lewis, who is he comes to our African American parent group when he's around. We've done a lot of book work with him. So we've done a little bit of that as well. But if you have other suggestions, please send them my way.
Okay, and then the other thing there was one more thing I wanted to ask. Gosh, what was it? In terms of resources. So do teachers, parents, do they know like where they can go if they wanted information? Just to kind of, I don't know, just get additional information. Is there a place where they can, are the resources accessible for them? Is what I'm.
Resources in specific to how to access.
Right, any work around equity. So like the work that teachers have had access to, are there any like resources that parents, if they wanted resources or if,
you know what we did, and I didn't put it on our timeline. We did bring some parents. Charles, Dr. Young, you went to that conference last year, right? All of it was right before COVID hit, and I think
Dr. Moss got us there.
That's right. And so we sent some parents to that, and I think Ms. Rice, didn't we bring parents to one other workshop? I'm not sure, but that's a good
Put on by the
point.
county, yes, we did.
We did. We brought some parents to some by the county as well. In terms of blasting it out, we have not yet done that. The work we've done with our African American parent group, we've been trying to work with them about how do we get this message out. And this was one of the big first steps, was bringing this here to you to show you the work that we've done and the goals that we would like to continue on, and then figure out how to do that next step, broaden the work, and bring more parent voice in for sure.
Yeah, and just a quick point from me, and Dr. Moss, any other resources, as Dr. Beatson said, would please pass them our way. Would love to know those. So Dr. Beatson, I don't know if you mentioned this, but you made a presentation with a group last year around equity.
I did, and it was called the K-12 Water Cooler. Where was that? Goodness gracious! Yes, and it was on this work on equity.
Yeah, it was kind of a big deal, and it's a state level group, so that might be a partnership for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
So excellent. Thank you, Dr. Beatson.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Well done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Beatson. And now I'm going to move on to our next item, which is an action item, and it's the first board meeting, the first reading of the following board policies. It's not an action item. I'm not sure why it says that. This is just an information at this point. I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just an information. It's a first reading
Right,
of the
right.
board policies.
So it is a first reading, and it's on the Williams Complaint Act, the impact aid, employee notifications, universal precautions, compensation, non-discrimination, and harassment. So I know, Dr. Young, you were going to.
You're muted.
I went muted. Okay, great. So it's the first reading of our board policies regarding impact aid, the Williams Uniform Complaint Act. We have a variety of policies here, and this is our first time. And Dr. Young, you were going to tee it up, and then I wanted to pose a question as well. So why don't you?
Sure. So this is our typical practice of continuing to update our board policies. It's we're pretty disciplined about this, and we're mostly caught up. We get updates from I believe it's California School Boards Association.
Right.
We have our board policy review committee. Do a great job. Mr. Maselli and Dr. Moss are on that. We meet once a month, and we go over those. A lot of these they're pretty routine in nature. They're updates to language for existing board policies. President Ferrucci delineated the titles of them for you. The only one that's new in there is the impact aid one. But when they say it's new and we accept that, it's usually because we have to, because it's supported by Ed Code. So you've had an opportunity to read these. So did you have any questions? Ms. Ferrucci, you had a question?
Well, I did, and actually my question was for Mr. Maselli and Dr. Moss, since they sit on the committee, and I wanted to know if there was anything in particular that stood out as something that was going to be really different for us as a district. And also, are these going to be policies, again, that we're going to have to be looking for ways to make sure that we inform our staff? Because, some policies require that real communication with our staff as well. So
I think the big one that I don't want to interrupt Mr. Maselli and Dr. Moss.
Go ahead.
I think a big one in there I know these things are really technical, right? And so when you go over them in the moment, you've got them, and then if you go back and remind yourself of what's in there. I think one that's a particular note is the parental involvement piece, and so we're happy to see a reminder in that there. And I believe that's related to the LCAP process, that when you go through that, you want to make sure that you have this robust stakeholder engagement process, so you solicit feedback from our community, and the rest of these things, employee notifications, etc., are things that would be staff at the district office that would be mostly affected by these.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Ferrucci, you do make a great point. We talked about it last year with the board policies that, impact people, that we want to make sure that we don't just, check it off and then file it, don't do anything with it.
Right.
These are important rules, policies, administrative regulations that help us run the district. So, and we'll bring these back as we always do next time for approval. So, were there no questions?
Any other comments or questions from anyone? All right, well then I'm going to move on to number 13, which is the non-consent action item. The first one is 13.1, consideration and approval of a request for Benicia High School student athletics to begin conditioning and a CIF schedule. And Dr. Gill, I know you're going to tee it up, and
I think
I see Mr. Holden online with us suddenly.
Dr. Gill,
You're already been found.
Dr. Gill and I went back and forth on this. I think she it was like a volleyball court, and she tipped the ball over to me to tee it up. So mixing my sports metaphors there. So yeah, I'd like to welcome Principal Kleinschmidt and Coach Holden. Great to see you. And so they're gonna make a presentation tonight to give you all of the information from CIF regarding the potentiality of bringing back athletics in any capacity. And that first phase would be, and they'll explain that to you, in red, it's conditioning. But they'll go through all of that with you. And I think that the board tonight will have to make a proposal and then have a vote on our path forward around any involvement with athletics. So that being said, Ms. Kleinschmidt, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. President Ferrucci and trustees. Happy to be here with you via Zoom. First time being with you virtually, but makes for a fun event as well. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that I can share the presentation out so that everyone can see that. Okay, and hopefully you can all see that now. And so for our return to athletics, I do want to just quickly point out all of the images are actually pictures of our student athletes from last year. Our last year of athletics sadly was cut short because of COVID and our school closure. And so when we left in March, we were not able to complete most of the spring season. So know that our student athletes, our coaches, our community are excited to welcome our student athletes back when it's safe to do so. And I want to share a little bit about that plan with you tonight. I share the board policy around extracurricular activities just because that is a guidepost for me. I like to always use our board policies as foundation and considering our path forward. And this talks about connectedness and the educational and social development of our students, which I think we've done a wonderful job in virtual learning of our focus on continuing the educational journey of our students. And we know that the social development piece is, it's definitely not the same. And so I think that's part of the interest in looking at when it might be safe to return to sports, beginning with conditioning and then moving forward to practices and competitions when it's safe to do so. I also share with you the CIF mission statement. CIF governs high school athletics in California, and I'll be talking with you a lot about their plan and what they've put together to help guide us as well in our return back at some point. So here we have 3 tiers of guidance and then 3 tiers of oversight that we would use to implement and monitor those guidelines. At the top there, you see the state guidelines, the county guidelines, and CIF. What's interesting is they're both tiered systems, but they really rely upon one another. And in fact, within the literature of CIF, it of course calls upon state and county guidelines. Within the state blueprint, it calls upon CIF when talking about youth sports. So while they very much are working together and keeping their pulse on everything that's happening, sometimes it can be a bit circular, and so we just continue to look for all updates there. When we are ready to return, that first level of oversight will be from myself and the assistant principals and our athletic director, Coach Holden, to oversee all of the activities, Everything from scheduling and facilities and cleaning, parking lots, all of those different pieces to make sure that everything is absolutely safe, that all protocols are being followed. Our athletic director, of course, working with coaches, making sure that all students are registered, have signed any waivers or forms, have physical exams, but then also working with coaches for additional training, for additional protocols, and also for pre-screening. And I'll talk a little bit about some of those protocols in just a little bit. So the CIF guidelines have two main phases in terms of return. The first phase really focuses on the individual skill development. And so this would be that conditioning phase. And this is something that's currently happening now at many schools around us in the Bay Area and within our Diablo Athletic League. That focus on individual skill development, which allows for a safe return, hopefully avoiding injuries, not yet using equipment, still using safety gear like face masks and spacing, but getting students outside so that they can be running, stretching, doing calisthenics. They're not having any contact with one another or with other teams. And it's all being done in small cohorts or small groups. We're seeing a lot of schools that are doing maybe 12 players to one coach or 10 players to one coach, just depending on the size of the team, the number of coaches available, but setting up those safe numbers. Always keeping a minimum distance, of course, of 6 feet between the students at all times. Then based on county state guidelines, when things are safer as we change in tiers, phase 2 for CIF allows for modified team practices to begin. Still no shared equipment or contact with other teams, but that the group size is a little bit larger, able to go inside, still keeping distance again. Then we sort of cross look at that along with the California guidelines. And so there's two different areas of our California industry guidance that I pulled, one being for gyms and fitness, and the other being around youth sports. And so this I've broken down to the tiers that we're used to looking at, that purple, red, orange, and yellow. Currently, Solano County remains in the red, as was mentioned earlier. But even when we were in the purple, actually outdoor conditioning or outdoor fitness was allowed. Outdoor pools could be open, of course, not indoor pools. Now that we're in the red tier, again, outdoor conditioning still being allowed, outdoor fitness, some small capacity, up to 10% of indoor being allowed. And then it sort of opens up a little bit more from there, up to 25% in the orange, up to 50% in the yellow. And so at this point, that's the industry guidance. The industry guidance right now for youth sports and education, this is where they specifically even call out CIF, that there's a partnership there so that they're in sync with one another. And so interestingly, this was not provided in a tiered system, but simply as guidelines and recommendations. So again, at the top, mentioning that it's consistent with CIF to support a safe environment, that sports are permitted when distancing of 6 feet can be maintained, and a stable cohort. So again, that one coach to a specific group of students, that those aren't mixing or intermingling. For sports that cannot be conducted with physical distancing, that they're only doing conditioning or training outside. And that the conditioning should focus on individual skill building. And for some sports, there's even specifics about what that looks like. I have that a little bit later for you, because it will look very different for water polo from volleyball or football. And then that indoor activities allowed based on county guidelines, based on the tiered system. Avoiding any equipment sharing, or if equipment is used and unavoidable, that it's cleaned and disinfected between users. It sort of becomes individual equipment for that time of use. No games, tournaments, or sporting events requiring close contact or promoting congregating at this time. And so looking a little bit more at Benicia High School, at our sports, and then at the plan for CIF for this year. CIF came out with a plan over the summer, and as of today, that plan continues to be in place, that rather than having the 3 regular seasons of fall, winter, and spring, all sports were postponed till December, and there would be only 2 seasons. 5 sports for what they're calling the fall, which would start with tryouts and practice in December, with competition in January. And then the remaining 10 sports all happening in the spring season. So that's about March to June. And so normally for Benicia High School, we actually have a participation rate of more than 50% of our student body. We would anticipate that would change just based on everything that's going on because high school sports are obviously optional. We understand some students may or may not choose to continue to participate in their regular sports. But we also know that youth sports, are still going on as well outside of the school system at this time. And so if we're looking at that CIF calendar to return to athletics, the way they have that posed with December 7th being the first day of tryouts and practice for CIF and January being the start of competition, that is, of course, all pending county guidelines, what tier we're in and what we are able to do at that time. Looking at backwards planning that, our proposal is to be able to start conditioning during the month of November if possible. That we would hope to provide our athletes with a safe opportunity to start training again, to avoid or prevent any injuries, and to start to put in place those protocols that are going to be very necessary to any type of return. The cohort framework for conditioning practices, I've mentioned earlier to you. I would work with Coach Holden. He would work with his coaches to establish those cohorts with his coaches and specific student groups. The athletes would obviously have to complete any sort of physical exams, any sort of registration ahead of time. Also, CIF provides clear guidelines about what that return would look like. And then also we would use screenings prior to any conditioning, any type of activity, and keep a log of that so that our coaches would be asking students about any symptoms, anything like that, taking their temperature, keeping a record of that. Of course, athletes would remain home if they weren't feeling well or if they had had any exposure. That would allow for contact tracing as well if needed. Conditioning practices would all be held after school hours if we were able to do so. This does promote stronger academics and eligibility. We have, of course, many students who strive to do really well in the classroom so that they are earning the grades needed to be able to be on the field or on the court. We also have students who have opportunities for college scholarships based on their athletic performance. We actually just posted a student on our social media earlier this week who received a scholarship to play softball at UNLV. We're very excited about that. And Coach Holden has a junior on his football team with a few college offers already. So our student athletes are, seeing some really great educational opportunities come out of their athletic participation as well. And then we know that the physical and mental health aspects of this, that students need physical exercise. This promotes their mental well-being, and that's something that we're all concerned about as well. And so looking at some of the, putting this into practice, what this would really look like as we get going. There's a free online course for all coaches and administrators in terms of learning more, doing the best that we can with all of our protocols around COVID-19, safety, cleaning, all plans needed for athletics. We would work with our custodial staff and with our coaches in terms of scheduling, in terms of having our facilities cleaned between all small group use. A reminder that, of course, we would start outside with all outside conditioning first and have hand washing and sanitizing areas. Designated entrances and exits so that students are not all coming and going from the same place. No guests or visitors allowed whatsoever at the conditioning, in the parking lots, congregating anywhere near that area. And that's a standard CIF guideline. I mentioned the pre-workout screening earlier, and that would be logged and recorded. Face masks are required, all hygiene practices enforced. We've already started working on all of the paperwork that we would provide to students and families, things that we would have them sign, their understanding of those protocols before participating. And then no shared equipment or clothing, no physical contact, no locker rooms. Students would be arriving ready to condition and then returning straight home after that. I won't read through all of this, but just suffice to say that, as I mentioned, conditioning for specific sports that usually are more team-oriented or equipment-based, CIF has gone through and provided specifics on what conditioning may look like to help get those athletes back in shape and ready to go should their sport be ready to start as planned. A few things that we're considering also is facility needs. Hopefully we are able to get started with our fall and spring sports. This especially comes into play with our spring sports when we have 10 sports, both our boys and our girls, our JV, our varsity, even some of our freshman teams. We have less time, more teams, and so facility needs will be something that we'll be working on and planning as we get closer. And then, of course, as with all of our best plans, it's our best thinking at this time, and we recognize the need to adjust as we go. Coach Holden's done a great job of being in contact with athletic directors at other schools and districts that we compete with or that we know in the area, so that we can learn from some of what they're doing and share ideas. And everybody's really coming together on this. I have to say, from our Diablo Athletic League principal and athletic director meetings, lots of discussion and planning going into this to make sure all of our students are safe. And then I do, of course, want to mention, because I know we've got lots of Panther fans in the community, while we would not be able to have spectators or guests or visitors during conditioning and practices, and potentially not during any of our games, depending on our what tier we're in, we have looked into live streaming our different games so that people can watch and cheer from home still. So we know that would be a big draw. And then we would continue to follow any guidance from the county and from the district, of course, in terms of when we might be able to open up for limited capacity or move on from there as we work towards a full return at some point. And so I definitely want to thank you for your time. And again, just bring to you the idea of getting our students started with conditioning so that they are ready for practice and for tryout when that time comes.
I was hoping to add just a little bit. I don't want to take up too much time. But I did have an athletic directors meeting today with all the 13 athletic directors, and then the North Coast section commissioner and assistant commissioner were also on that meeting. And tonight or today, the CIF state, which Brianna talked about, is actually meeting with the governor to go over the protocols leading up to the December 7th start time or start date for CIF sports. He's also said that they're working together to actually develop the plan so that December 7th actually happens versus not happening, because they understand the need for these student athletes to get out there and actually compete and the health issues that go along with it. So thank you.
So Craig, clarify for me, the December 7th start date is when the conditioning would start?
So December 7th.
I thought that was November.
So there's two sets of seasons that CIF is having this year. One starts December 7th. The other one starts February, March-ish.
Okay.
In there. So what we're kind of looking to do right now is just start some conditioning, get the student athletes back running, 45 minutes to an hour for each, for their sports, for those first 5 sports that are going to start December 7th, just so that when we start December 7th, we're not starting from zero. We'd like to, start as, have these athletes have their legs under them so that, we're not asking them to do things December 7th that they haven't been doing since March of last year. So that's kind of what we're looking to do right now in a nutshell, is just kind of get them acclimated to starting a season, which CIF says going to start December 7th.
Okay.
So our hope would be that our proposal would be is that if the board would allow, that we would then take that to go ahead and start hiring our coaches. We would then have to bring the coaches back to you at the next board meeting for approval. And at that point, then we can go ahead and schedule conditioning prior to that December 7th start date, which would actually be tryouts and practices. So this piece would just be to give us the direction needed to get going with hiring of coaches, scheduling some of those pieces that Coach Holden would be able to do in the next week or two so that we're able to go. So we wouldn't be able to start conditioning tomorrow. We would still have to get a few pieces in place to do that.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify what the motion was with the schedule.
Yes, sorry about that.
No, it was they were great slides and they were chock full of information, but I just wanted to make sure that as we go to move forward and take action, we knew what we were taking action on. If that made sense. Okay?
Okay, so
all right.
Shall I try the motion or are there more questions?
You give it a whirl.
Oh, Sherry has a question, I think.
Okay, Sherry?
Hi.
Is your hand up for a question?
Yeah, it was. Thank you. I just want to just reconfirm that these are conditioning classes or after-school programs that are going to only happen outside, that there's going to be, you guys said that there's going to be some kind of a list that you're going to maintain of the student on an everyday basis. And I read somewhere in there about temperatures being taken. Is that correct?
That's all correct for the conditioning. Yes. Yes.
Okay. And also,
and during practice, I should say, as well as practice gets started, because we would still have to follow the guidance of the county in terms of what tiers we're in, just like all of the other schools in our league. And so we'll all be looking on a day by day, week by week basis to see what the counties have decided. And to be as transparent as possible, we are the only Solano County within our league. The rest of the schools are across the bridge in Concord, Walnut Creek. And so there may be differences, and we've discussed that with our league commissioner, that if Solano County moves at a different pace, we may or may not be able to participate at the same level as other schools. And I think that CIF will see that happening across the state, and they're prepared for that.
Thanks, Brianna. I also wanted to ask about masks. I saw somewhere written in your stuff that stated that all the students will be wearing masks while they're conditioning outside.
So they would be wearing masks at all time when they're coming and going, when they're stretching, when they're pretty much everything except for that really strenuous. If they're running a few miles, they would not have that mask on. However, they would be required to keep those distances. And while I know that 6 feet is a minimum, we actually have a greater distance than that in the materials that we've created for our coaches.
Okay, thank you.
And that if there were, let's say, 2 cohorts of 12 student athletes, and let's say they were both on the football field, there's a requirement, I believe it's in the state requirements for youth sports, that those 2 groups must be no less than 25 yards away from each other.
Okay.
So there's quite a bit of detail in there.
So as long as it's outside, because just today, Cal, the Cal team up here had to cancel their next weekend's game because somebody came down with COVID. So it could happen here too. So I'm just trying to be extra.
So disappointing.
I know, I'm sure.
Okay. Does anybody else have any? Yes. Any other questions?
Okay. No. Okay. So I make a motion that we approve the athletics teams moving forward with conditioning as outlined by the BHS team.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Thank you. All right. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So seeing none, Coach Holt can get us going. It's
Thank
approved.
you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very well done. Good job, you guys.
Okay, the next action item up is 13.2, consideration and approval of the course outline for Benicia High School and adult ed. Dr. Beatson?
Excellent. Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to bring to you tonight several courses for your approval. As you know, we've done this every year where our course approval process goes through a pretty rigorous process where the staff and the administration at the site work on a course approval. They bring that to our district curriculum council. They review all of the aspects of that with district curriculum council. And after DCC, District Curriculum Council, says, yes, we can support that moving to the school board, we then bring it to you. And so tonight, actually, Ms. Rice and I are going to split these up, and Ms. Kleinschmidt's here. And so if there's any additional questions, not like putting her on the spot, but she's got several exciting classes. Well, I'll start, and then I'll turn it over to Ms. Rice to do the high school classes. Something a little different in what I'm bringing you tonight is several classes that will be part of our adult education program. So Ms. Regis is the director of both early childhood and adult education. We've had that for several years, and she's offered an amazing array of classes for adults in our community, so anyone over the age of 18. And this year, she was awarded a federal Workforce Innovative and Opportunity Act grant, so a WIA grant, and that had particular requirements in it. And one of those requirements was that the courses be approved by the state, which they have been, and then they get approved by the governing board. So these are new courses that she's offering that are in alignment with this grant to expand opportunities for adults in our community and in our greater community, because they all don't need to live right here in Benicia. So the first course that I'm bringing to you is an adult education high school diploma class. And so this class is for students who are 18 years or older that want to get an adult ed high school diploma. And that's different than a GED. I'll talk a little, GED is also on here as well. But the adult high school diploma is for a student, anyone who's 18 years or older, who for whatever reason didn't complete high school. They would bring in their transcripts, have a transcript review, determine what classes are left for them to get a high school diploma. And that would be 180 credits, even though our Benicia High School and Liberty High School is 220, but 180 is the minimum for this to meet the state requirements. So that's one class. And what the students would be awarded at the end is a Benicia Unified School District Adult Education High School Diploma. Another class that I'm bringing forward is Adult Education ESL. So we have also offered an ESL class that runs through the library. This would be an additional class designed for students 18 years or older who want to improve their English language skills. And there's a whole curriculum attached to this. And this also helps those students not only do that, but then if they want to go on and perhaps get a GED if they need that, it just really rounds out their program. And then the third one that I'm bringing is the Adult Education GED, the Graduation Equivalency Diploma. So that's not a high school diploma. What that does is they have to pass 4 tests. So the GED is really a test preparation course, and that is in math, social studies, science, and like an English language arts. So the GED doesn't give them a high school diploma, it gives them a graduation equivalent, and it's really the test prep. If they have, the way it was explained to me is if they have very few credits, they might go for the GED because they want to get a GED. If they are just shy of, more like a handful of credits, they may want to go back and get the high school diploma. So it gives them some options, some choice. And so those are the adult ed classes that I'm bringing to you to fulfill and round out this program. I will be bringing a few more probably at the next board meeting, again, that are supported by this WIO grant from Ms. Regis's program. Any questions about those?
No, I think it's excellent that we're doing the adult high school graduation program, though, because that gives students much more of an advantage than GED, which, although it's named an equivalency, has a lot of limitations. So I think it's really of benefit to our population to have that adult high school degree program.
Excellent. Thank you. So before we move on and ask for your approval, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Rice to talk about the high school classes.
All right, thank you. We have 3 high school classes, and I'm actually going to introduce them and then also see if Ms. Kleinschmidt would like to add, because honestly, she's been had played a huge role in this. So since she's here, if she's willing, I'd like to kind of give her the spotlight in this. Our first course that we're bringing to you is Careers in Education 1. It's actually going to be a 2-part course. The students will receive elective credit for this course, and it will be offered to our students that are 11th and 12th graders. This course is different than we had a career paths in the past offered at the high school, and the lead teacher that taught that has retired. And thus forth, the school has looked at this course and is actually taking even a deeper lens in really looking at the career in all aspects of what it takes to be an educator. And we're really hopeful by offering these courses that we'll have some students going through our BUSD system and coming out and being educators and wanting to move forward in that path. Principal Kleinschmidt, would you like to add to this course?
Sure. We are very excited about this. We've had teaching career paths at Benicia High School for many years, and many students who've graduated having taken teaching career paths and become teachers. And in fact, about 25% of our staff right now are former BHS students, me being one of them.
Myself
so
as well.
we're just going to single-handedly take down the teacher shortage in Benicia and throw them right here. It's actually such a neat opportunity. And so we, wanted to give more opportunities for students to have a career-oriented educational path, explore something of their interest, earn college credits. The intro class will be articulated with a local community college to earn college credits. And then the secondary class, we had an articulation before with Sonoma State. We'll maintain that. And so really they're able to take 2 classes that are college level courses. And they're going to learn a lot about the teaching profession. I think we'll have a lot of young teachers walking around the campus having great conversations with their own teachers, because they'll learn about pedagogy and they'll learn about classroom management. There's a whole unit in both classes about special education, where they interview a teacher and learn about, debunking the myths of disabilities and, an IEP, and just so many layers to education that we know are so important, but that we wanted our students to really understand about an education that they would pursue. And so this is that first level class with several rich units that will hopefully inspire students to go on and take the second course after. And they do have some observational time built in as well. There's observational hours where they're getting out, and we'll be working to find out what areas they're interested in and partner them with teachers at all grade levels, including in Ms. Regis's programs. She was interested in partnering with us as well.
Yes, thank you. We're really excited for that one. And then we also have the CTE in marketing. And this is offered to our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. It's also elective credit. It's a G pending course. And it's going to be focused for students. The priority will be given to students who have passed at least 1 semester of IM1. That's equivalent to what most of our 9th graders are taking, because there is some math that they will be doing in this course. It is a multimedia platform course, and it will provide a foundation for advanced study for them to go on.
go ahead and add to that, Ms. Kleinsmith, but I'm just really excited to hear that we're really broadening our perspectives and courses that we're offering at BHS. Again, Ms. Kleinschmidt alluded to being a graduate of that, and I would have been really excited to have some of these courses offered when I went to school. So I think you'll be pleased to hear about this course. We had the opportunity to really capitalize on a teacher that we hired this year who's an English teacher, but also has his CTE sales and marketing and taught this course at Deer Valley High School. And so we seized the opportunity to expand our CTE programs and add this pathway as well. And so students that are interested in possibly pursuing a career in sales and marketing, hopefully we'll take this class and learn much more about it. It's so much more than a textbook course, although that's a big component because there's so much to learn in this class. Math, as Ms. Rice mentioned, math is a big component. And I think that that's great because I think that it reinforces why several of these core content areas are so important as we pursue our careers. And so math, English, all of these different pieces, they are essential in our CTE classes as well. It really brings them to life. Students will get to learn about a point of sale system. There's software by Stukent. I had not heard of it before. I'm learning a lot about it. And essentially it replicates and provides opportunities for students to do some online marketing, but within this software program. So they're not actually using social networks. They're not actually posting things out there in the real world, which we know can cause problems sometimes. And so instead they're able to practice, get feedback, get responses from this technology that then they have to interact with. And so they learn that way, good or bad as well. And so there's the technology component. There's the hands-on component as well. We have plans to develop this further in the next few years so that these students will work with our school administration and with our ASB and leadership and potentially run a student store on campus or an online, a web store. The teacher has some really neat ideas about really making Benicia High spirit wear something that's available to the community. If a parent wants to come to a game on a Thursday night and they need a Panther t-shirt, well, the sales and marketing class is going to sell one to you. So we've got some ideas for that in mind as well. Thank you.
All right, that sounds really awesome. And when are these classes going to get rolling out?
So the CTE marketing and sales class will actually be able to start in January.
In January.
The other two courses, we would start up next year. We need some further time to develop that. And with being in virtual learning makes it a little bit harder. Obviously, students would not be able to get out and observe classrooms and things like that. So.
Okay, sounds exciting. All right, any other comments or questions from anyone? I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm going to call for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the course outline for BHS and for the adult education.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Seeing no one, the courses are approved. Thank you very much. Those are pretty exciting classes. Okay, the last item that we have is a consideration and approval of a resolution number 20-2109 to start the request for a proposal process for a new student information system. So this will be a roll call vote. However, I see that Director Rice and Technology is Sebastian still on. He is. If you could take this through a little bit and tell us what it is we're getting a resolution on.
Absolutely. All right, to get us started off here, Mr. Padawan, Director of IT, and myself are going to discuss the request for approval to actually start the bid process on an alternative student information system, which we refer to as SIS. And the reasonings that you'll hear about it tonight are our current system has many inconsistencies. And trying to deal with those, we have encountered a lot of inadequate customer support. Our system currently lacks the capacity that we would like to move forward as a BUSD educational system, and there's a lot of frustration by our BUSD users.
So just to give you a little background about PowerSchool, we started using PowerSchool 17 years ago. We are the only school district in Solano County, a part of MIT, using the same system. Everybody else in Solano went to another system as the same thing for the other side of the bay. So we start providing online registration back in March 2018. We started the process, and we went live in 2018-19. The integration was in-house. Our two analysts create a website and was combining the SIS database with the registration process. That one went pretty smooth, considering that was done in-house. And the year after, PowerSchool came up with their online registration, and they assured us that was a very easy process and was talking to all the databases. So we picked that one as an improvement for our system, and we signed up for the contract. After we closed the registration 18-19, we got a lot of problems. When we went to deliver our record to the classrooms, to their school, we had a lot of duplicate contacts. We had a lot of incorrect contacts for students. So we spent a lot of people hours between the office managers and technology to clear up that mess that we created. It was several hundreds incorrect contacts. So we contacted, of course, PowerSchool as soon as we found those incorrect contacts on our system, and they told us that we need to clean up everything. If we clean up everything will be fine on this time around. So on June 2020, everything was clear and ready to go. We opened the online registration, and after we closed in August of 2020, we had the same problems and more. It is November right now, and we are still working with PowerSchool to fix all the problems. Not only on that we had the problem, but we had the problem also with the performance matter.
Sorry. So I came to you, I guess it's been about 1.5 years ago now. Really excited to share with you our new data analytics platform that we were moving towards, which was Performance Matters. And what Performance Matters is an add-on to our PowerSchool system. PowerSchool didn't have the capability to do a lot of data work, be able to pull different graphs when we're analyzing what we're going to do to support a student. So we were told through PowerSchool that if we purchased Performance Matters, it was going to give us that consistent platform that just seamlessly integrated with PowerSchool. And that has not been the case. We have had unreliable data, which in turn, Mr. Padawan just explained, has resulted in several hours on our part putting in to make sure things are correct when we're utilizing that data. We were also assured that there would be ease of access for our teachers and our administrators, and that they would support us along the way. But the actual reality of that is it's been very poor customer service. I believe we're on our 8th associate this year that's supposed to be supporting us. And it's not with lack of Mr. Padawan and myself, trying to get our support. And we really wanted a system that gave us a way to progress monitor our students, be able to get timely data so that in turn it could support our teachers in actually, not lag data, so they can actually make changes in their teaching. And that's just not the case right now. It's a lot of time on our end. Mr. Robert Wall, under the direction of Mr. Padawan, is actually having to write the code for the grade book. We're doing a lot of the work for Power School right now. Lisa Golson and Lynn Hannafin in Ed Services is having to manually load the standards. And I'm sure you're asking, like, well, why are you staying with them right now? Well, obviously we're here to talk to you about that and get support, but it isn't, like Mr. Padawan said, a click of a button. This is a timely process. The company knows that we can't just change mid-year and go to a new system, that it takes a lot of planning and preparation. So we're here today to discuss with you and request the approval to go out for bid, to start looking at additional student information systems so that we can find something that better suits our district and wanting to move forward and really utilize data and have information that is correct and accurate at our fingertips. Any questions for us?
So I can assume that you have some ideas of information systems, or you've been gathering information already. You may have, is that correct?
We had a couple. We are talking with other districts. The two main student information systems around our areas and Infinite Campus. We need to go out for bid if that is the case, and everybody can give us a bid, and then we have to decide where we go after that.
Okay, I can appreciate the struggle. There's nothing like having a system that's supposed to be quick and easy and have a click of a button, and in fact it's taking hours to find out the information that you need. I remember very clearly that's one of the things the teachers were talking about that would be real helpful in their classroom and in their planning if they were able to do that. So it's unfortunate that what you were promised is not what's being delivered. And we've got Mr. Sharif in the back who's shaking his head vigorously saying, yes, that's really true. It's been a lot of work. So does anybody else have any comments or questions? Mrs. Zeta?
Yes, I just wanted to know if we had, what kind of price we're looking at. What's our price point that we need to think ahead about that this would cost? And is it an easy transfer, the information that we have now, into what it is, or do we have to start fresh?
So the price is not, in theory, we cannot get any pricing yet. However, it is the same price, and we are trying to look for a system that is also including the communication at home. So we are using Blackboard, so it is a different software that we're using plus the Power School. So if you can get something that is combined, the price tag will be lower than what we're paying right now.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Padawan.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so can I call for a motion to allow that to go out and get proposals?
I move that we allow them to go out and get bids for a new student information system.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, thank you, Dr. Moss. This is going to be a roll call vote because it's actually a resolution number 20-2109. So Mrs. Martinez?
Trustee Barucci?
Yes.
Trustee Hopeman?
Yes.
Trustee Maselli?
Yes.
Trustee Zeta?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, and good luck, Mrs. Rice and Dr. Padawan. All right, with that said, that's the end of our agenda. So if there's no other comments or questions from anybody, I am going to adjourn the meeting, but not before we say good night, stay well, and be healthy. Adjourned.
Bye.
Amen.
Thank you.